one tenderoni, the sweet old girl. She's like the sweetest little girl in the whole wide world. She make the toughest old boy fall deep in love. And once you get her wrong, you will never give her up.
Bobby Brown.
I think I'm gonna love her for the rest of my life. She's my only love. She's my only love. My only heart.
Old school.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Come on in. Sit on down. Good to see you. Welcome to, I almost said my own channel. Welcome to the Sabby and Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. So good to see all of you here on this Thursday evening. It is 6:02. We are here live. And I am one of your hosts, James Fauntleroy. So good to see you. Sabby Sabs, my hostess from the mostest. Good to see you.
What's going on, JB?
All right. You like it? It's like a metallic purple.
Oh, I thought it was blue. Is it?
Oh, it's not. These cameras.
It looks blue on camera.
Yeah, it's like a silverish purple.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't bring this out that often, but I was just like, I'm feeling kind of silverish purple today. So I'm like, why not? Kind of royal, kind of like Prince. R.I.P. old purple one. R.I.P. Anywho, so the Sabby and Jaybe show is every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys have not recognized that, then go ahead and lock that into your brains because that's when we go live. Just to let you guys know, if you guys would like to, you guys can also subscribe as well. If you guys have not already, then you guys can also give the stream a like. That also pushes us out into the algorithm. Thank you so very much. And if you would like to, you can join our mailing list at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com. That gives you email notifications whenever we go live or upload clips. So just to let you guys know that. If you guys would like to, you guys can also email us if you have any inquiries, especially serious inquiries only. But if you would like to and show topics, any different news that you are come abreast of, or if you guys would like to get in contact with us, you guys can go to info@redblacknetwork.com, and then you can go to our website at revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com to see what we're doing live on the ground. So thank you so very much for that. If you have not already, we also do fundraising for our graphics designer, Erin. She does great work. You guys can go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $Mutual Aid Forever. Thank you so very much for that. And am I forgetting anything? Why do I feel like I'm forgetting something?
I think you showed, do we still have the fundraiser going? Because if it...
Yes, but I don't have that graphic.
Oh, your mutual aid Orlando group.
Well, we finished fundraising right now, but we're kind of paused right now because of my whole housing situation. Once I can get, because we're actually met our goal. The thing is that they want me to get my housing situation situated first before we actually do the actual action on the ground. Once I'm moved in, then we'll do the action on the ground. But yes, I'm not fundraising for that right now because we're all squared away. We got everything that we fundraised for. So
okay.
But thank you very much for that. So with that being said, I'm going to say hello to a few people in the chat. We're going to make it very quick because we have a few things to get to. All right, make this quick. Oh, on the Rumble side says, Gut1 says, support BDS. Abby Martin's Gaza Fights for Freedom. Oh, yes. Thank you, Gut1. So Abby Martin has a documentary called Gaza Fights for Freedom. If you would like to, you can actually go to just Google Gaza Fights for Freedom, and you can actually watch that for free. There's no paywall at all. So if you want to learn more about what's going on in Gaza, especially what happened in Gaza in 2018, when they started to do the March of Return, how they were brutally treated by the IDF, that also is in there. So I encourage you to watch it. Viewer discretion is advised, though, but it will give you the tools to be able to combat Zionism, because When people go, oh, there's no apartheid, it shows the apartheid. When they show people in an open air prison, it shows that too. All that is evidence in 4K. Not literally 4K, but you know what I mean. So you can see it for yourself. So thank you so much for that, Gup1. Appreciate it. All right. So Drain Eru says, let's go RBN. Good luck today. Thank you very much, Drain Eru. Eric T. Ray coming in saying Jaybe and Sabby show. Thank you so much. Good to see you, Eric, in here. Silva says Jaybe, peace, Sabby, love. All right. All right, we have Retro Gamer coming in saying hello. Hello, Retro Gamer. Kiri Grigor is coming in saying Sabby, love, Jaybe, love. Thank you so much for all the love. Everybody's so loving today. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Lulu's therein says, evening, comrades. Evening to you. Hop says, happy victory day, everyone. Peace. All right. Tiberius Monk says, hello, revolutionaries. Hello, Tiberius Monk. Oh, and they also said Sabby in the house.
Tiberius.
Mm-hmm. All right. Who else do we have here? Bryce coming in saying hello to everybody that's basically in the chat, including Robbie Burns. Good to see you. DJ Leader says, here goes another action-packed banger of a Thursday. Yes. In the words of Pops, bang, bang, bang. Rick Solis says, hey, y'all. How do you put up with me? We have Raging Homo sapien.
Some of these names are funny.
Hold on, Jaybe, Sabby. Oh my gosh, Young Black Economist says peace and love. So, hey, Silver Sapphire, I'm sorry. Let me see. One more. Let's go. Yes, and Jacqueline coming in, saying hello to everybody in here. Good to see you. All right, so it's time for us to get started. So, what are we talking about today? Well, you guys saw the thumbnail. Right or wrong side of history. You can see there, this was back in the 60s, the Vietnam protest. And then now you have a Palestinian protest, both at the University of Chicago.
Yep.
Sabs, when I was speaking to Ron Bacone on Tuesday, one of the questions I had asked him was, how does he feel about the students protesting? Now, as far as I know, I think there's over 120 campus protests going on across the country. How do you personally feel about the protests, and do you think it's the wrong side of history or the right side of history?
I think the campus protests have been great. I think it's definitely the right side of history. And I think what I've noticed too, a lot of the focus on the protests, particularly with mainstream media, has been with the Ivy League universities, and also, just elite universities that are not a part of the Ivies. But a lot of the universities that have been protesting are public universities. And I think a lot of those schools are not getting enough attention. So yeah, it's not just, if you listen to the media tell it, they make it seem like it's just Columbia, MIT, Harvard, Yale, but it's all across the country. And a lot of the public schools are totally being ignored in the media, with the exception of Ole Miss with the racist incident that they had there on their campus. But other than that, like, the media is trying to make it seem like this is just a rich kid thing, which is not true. There was a poll recently also that showed that even at Columbia University, that I think it was like 35 of the ones that they polled or whatever were actually from low income families. So, and then they do that on purpose. The media is doing that because they want you to believe that this is just rich kids with nothing else to do. And that's actually not the case. Like, yeah, some of them are rich kids, but there's also kids that are out there protesting on campus that are from low income families.
Just to add to your point, I actually like that rich kids are joining in. I find it heartening, because if they're willing to stand up for this, then that means that these rich kids are now starting to realize the unequal and unequitable privilege that they have in this world, and then in a microcosm in this country, because now these rich kids that are also protesting are standing side by side with poor kids or low income kids who are also at these schools, and they're hearing that their situation, and now there's a networking, but it's not a networking for profit or prestige. It's a networking for organizing in order to change the system, right? I think that is what is also makes it so beautifully dangerous. You know what I mean?
And that scares people. That scares people like Bill Ackman. That scares people who are billionaires, people that are part of that elite class. It scares them because, remember, this is the future. These kids are the future. And they're worried that, some of these kids that are coming from these wealthy families are not going to ascribe to some of the same positions and goals and dreams about capitalism that some of the elite people have, like Bill Ackman. And so they are very much concerned about that. And I've been seeing this for quite some time, actually, till like a year or two ago, when I was still working in higher ed. I started to see that more and more, where more kids that were coming from a wealthier background were starting to acknowledge the type of privilege that they had. And they were becoming more concerned about their future, whether it's the economy, whether it's, housing, those types of issues, but also foreign policy. So things have definitely changed from when I was in undergrad. Like, I felt like a lot of those things weren't being discussed. But now it is becoming more common for people to frown upon the elite class and that status.
Absolutely. So one of the things that we wanted to do was, you want me to show that first video that we sparked everything with first? Is that okay?
Yeah. So this is the University of Chicago, and there was a reporter who interviewed one of the students that's protesting at the encampment at the University of Chicago. And first of all, I was very surprised that they even aired this on mainstream media, his response. But everybody needs to listen to what this kid says. So when you hear what he says, you're going to understand why I was shocked that they actually aired this on mainstream media.
All right.
Some breaking news on the campus of the University of Chicago. Campus police there breaking up a protester encampment.
Police in riot gear arrived on campus early this morning. Joni has been there very early. She has the latest. Joni, what has unfolded since you arrived?
Well, the campus police, as you said, moved in just before 5 a.m. And these protesters have been holding the line now for 2 hours. There's a bullhorn behind us, so it's very loud. Christopher was on the inside when it happened. Describe what happened in the quadrangle this morning.
Yeah, it was horrific. They waited like cowards until every single student was asleep in their tent, basically. And then they stormed in, maybe 40 or 50 of them with riot gear, screaming. They started throwing wood planks, throwing chairs, throwing absolutely everything in any direction to destroy it as fast as possible, to suppress this movement as fast as possible. And in fact, one of the chairs that they threw came within maybe 3 inches of hitting my girlfriend in the head. And they had just woken us up.
So it was dark because it was before sunrise. You had a warning that they were coming, but they did for a while. And so everybody was
We had no warning. No, we had no warning.
Okay, so then what did you do when that shit was happening?
I tried to make sure everyone was safe. It was chaos. It was terrifying. Yeah.
Hang on. Now, Sabs, let me ask you this question. Are the students occupying, are they some type of dangerous military force that's occupying the area that police would need to go in and do this type of military type tactic?
No. No. Most of the protests, and I can tell you guys, and I know Professor Zinkus, he's been involved in this as well, but most of the protests, these kids are peaceful protests. Like they're singing songs, they're reading, they're, having like speaking engagements and stuff like that. Like this, it's not the type of event that you would need police there in riot gear for. That's not what this is at all. As much as the media tries to portray it as violent, most of the violent activity that has occurred at these protests has been from the pro-Israel side or from people that are just outside agitators, and they're trying to escalate things to make it worse, right? But most of these protests have been peaceful. And we saw the same type of narrative with the BLM protest, the George Floyd protest as well, where the media made it seem like the majority of the protests were violent, when in fact, the majority of the protests were peaceful. So you have to understand the narrative from the mainstream media and what their goal is and what they're trying to accomplish. They're trying to get people to reject the protests, to frown upon those protests. So that's why they have that narrative. And all sides of mainstream media is doing it. It's not just right-wing media that is doing that. MSNBC and CNN are saying the same things that Fox News is saying when it comes to these protests. So just FYI.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
So you were able to get out. I understand that students are being threatened with disciplinary action for being in there.
They gave us some ridiculous notice out here saying that participants in the quad encampment, which no longer exists thanks to them, are facing like an interim leave of absence as well as a criminal trespass charge. I have no idea if that's just a scare tactic or if it's real, but it doesn't matter because the difference between us and people like these cops is that there are limits to when we continue following orders. And when you're talking about a genocide visited upon a colonized population of 2 million people trapped in a ghetto that's as long as a marathon and 6 miles wide, when that ghetto is being systematically starved, slaughtered, every hospital bombed, every university bombed, 70% of homes destroyed, 40,000 people murdered, 15,000 children murdered, the entire population on the brink of starvation, we say, and if our government and our academic institutions are complicit in this, there comes a point where we say we're not following orders and it doesn't matter what you do to us because there are principles and there are human lives that matter more than our careers and our futures, and that's what separates us from people like Paul Olivisatos, the coward president of this university, and these coward cops that come in terrorizing an encampment while people are sleeping.
You've been saying-
First of all, this is why we say defund the police.
Yep.
Go ahead, Steps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, what he said there is so based, and there's a reason why this video has been like just going viral on social media, because this young man is telling you that his career doesn't matter, that what really matters is what's happening to people in Gaza. So the younger, and this is what I've noticed about this particular generation over the past couple of years, they are less concerned about material possessions. Remember, Jaybe, it was just a couple years ago, the whole minimalism, trend started where people were becoming minimalist and so I had students that were minimalist, even ones that came from pretty wealthy backgrounds where they didn't feel that the focus should be on buying an expensive car, having, all these different, material possessions, that they just need the bare minimum. They are preparing themselves for what could be to come in the future when they get older, right? When it can come to a point where you may have to learn to deal with and live with the bare minimum. They're preparing themselves for what could come with climate change. They're preparing themselves for, what's going to happen to food in the world. So it's a very different generation, and it's very different from when I was in undergrad, because back then it was like, people would kind of look at you a certain kind of way if you didn't have certain material possessions, right? Like you don't have a car, you don't have, money, like that kind of thing. Like I remember some people even looked down on college students that had a job, and I had a job. So it was like, those kind of things, like that elitist mindset is disappearing. Like that is not popular anymore the way that it used to be. So we said the same thing about this idea of what does it really mean when people say Black excellence, right? They're usually talking about what you own, what you have, like all this different type of wealth. And now we're coming to a time where material possessions, particularly for that generation, it doesn't mean as much anymore.
Yeah.
Like you could always tell, like when I was in undergrad, you could tell who the wealthy kids were. You could tell by the clothes that they wore. You know, they always had the name brand clothes. You could tell by the car that they drove. You could tell. Now, not so much the case. Because again, a lot of them are more likely to willing to be minimalists. So the wealthy kid on your campus may just be wearing a t-shirt and jeans. So things are really changing. And that is a selfless attitude when he says that it's not about my career and my future in corporate America. It's about, you know, saving people's lives and the lives of humanity. So things are changing.
Absolutely. Let's continue. Great points, Sabs. Thank you so much.
Terrorizing an encampment while people are sleeping.
You've been standing in this line linked arm in arm with other protesters. What has happened here?
What's happening here? You'd have to ask them. Apparently, they're trying to intimidate us, trying to suppress the protest that is continuing to grow. I think that they thought they could basically terrify us into inaction, into flight. But this is what this university has never understood, has never accepted, has never reckoned with about this student movement. And not just at UChicago, but around the country, is that the commitment to Gaza runs deeper than fears for our safety, fears for our careers, fears for our paychecks. It is a fundamental obligation we have as citizens of a country that is presiding over this genocide, arming this genocide, and as students at a university that is invested in those same weapons manufacturers and that is partnered with the same apartheid institutions that train that military and develop its technology.
Now, he said that it's defending Gaza is greater than their fear for their safety. Like,
and I've heard a number of protesters say that. I've heard a number of protesters say that, like, they're willing to put their safety on the line, you know, to save what's left of Gaza. Like it's a very different it's a different time. It's a different generation. And these kids, you know, I saw a segment from Fox News that tried to portray them as uninformed. And people need to understand these kids are not uninformed. They are very much aware of what happened to the Palestinian people. They are aware of the creation of Israel, how it was created. These kids are not dumb. And another thing that the mainstream media is not mentioning so far from what I've seen is that a lot of the protesters on the pro-Palestinian side are Jewish students.
mm-hmm.
So this is not a protest against Jewish people.
Mm-hmm.
This is what people have to really get. This is a protest against, you know, the Zionism. This is a protest against the Israeli government. This is not against Jewish people. But if you listen to mainstream media, that is the way that they portray it.
Absolutely. And I think that is imperative that people realize that this is some of the most informed generation and, you know, ever, to be honest with you. Yeah. I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that Gen Z is actually more informed than we are at that age, I would say.
They also travel more, JB. They're more about experiences. They're more about taking their money and spending it on experiences instead of material possessions. So that's another thing. A lot of these kids, like, they are doing international travel and not just your typical, let's go backpacking through Europe, like, you know, travel. Yes. They're traveling to places that, I mean, like when I was in undergrad, people were not looking to travel to. So they're going to like South America. They're going to Brazil. They're going to some of the countries that the U.S. government tells you to avoid. They're traveling to those places. They're traveling to, you know, before October 7th, you know, they were traveling to the West Bank. They were traveling to Gaza and to Israel. But some of these kids have been to all of those places, so they know what's up. They know what's going on. So I think that's really important. The traveling too, having those firsthand experiences, right in front of your face. So instead of, basically fearing to learn about those places, they have chosen to explore those places. They also grew up with the internet. When JB and I don't know how young everyone is in the chat, but when JB and I were kids, there was no internet.
Nope.
There was no internet. Like there was no such thing.
Imagine that. A time before dial-up.
I still remember when AOL Online like started.
You got mail.
And you couldn't use the internet if someone was on the phone. So, and if someone was using the internet, you couldn't use the phone because it was connected to the phone line.
Remember those discs, the free trial internet that you used to put on the disc?
Yep. So they grew up with alternative sources of information, whereas we did not. Like what we saw in the news and with what was ever, written in the newspapers, that was what we saw. Yep. So,
if we wanted to know something, we had to go and, if we had the library, which a lot of us couldn't afford, you had to go pick up an Encyclopedia Britannica, open it up, to whatever page on that subject, and you go ahead and look. You didn't have it on your fingertips like this. So
we didn't have a smartphone. We didn't have tablets. Like we didn't have it. And when the internet, when it first got up and going and stuff like that, even then, not everybody had a computer in their home.
I didn't.
Right.
We didn't have a computer in the home until the first time we ever had a computer in the home was when I was 17, about to leave the house and about to graduate high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was going through like a rent-a-center and getting one and paying for it. That's what we had.
It's a very different time. So they have access to other sources of information, and we damn sure didn't have social media. So we were in the dark about some things.
Damn near literally. Back in my day.
It's technology.
There was some pushing and shoving. I don't know who was pushing or shoving, but I know that there was tension here at the line. You have a conversation with some of these police officers.
Yeah, I've been talking to them this whole time. I've been asking them what it would take for them to stop following orders. I would ask them, how many kids have to die? So if you say 15,000 kids are killed, they're still willing to violently suppress a national movement, raising the alarm that this needs to stop. U.S. complicity needs to stop. So what if it was 50,000 kids, 200,000 kids, 1 million kids? What if the whole Gaza ghetto?
Do you know if there are next steps here?
For them? For me, the next step is a simple one, whatever form it takes, which is to continue fighting with every breath we have, with everything we have, for the people of Gaza, because the blood of those kids is on our hands. It's on all of our hands, whether we like it or not. If we're U.S. citizens, if we're UChicago students, we are implicated in this horror that is being visited with total impunity because of U.S. Security Council vetoes by the state of Israel. I'm a student, yes, I'm a PhD student. Yeah.
And if you face discipline, what that?
Again, I don't care. It doesn't matter. There are things that matter more than my academic future. And certainly every one of those children that is being murdered, starved, maimed, whose parents are having to choose, do I let this kid starve first or that one? This is such an ugly reality, of great magnitude, that to even think, to really entertain questions about what might happen if Paul puts me on a leave of absence is ridiculous. And it's insulting to the memory of every child that has been murdered in the course of this genocide with the full complicity of the United States, of Joe Biden, and of people like Paul Santos and his cops that he sticks on us in the middle of the night. They're hypocrites, they're cowards, and the blood of Gaza's kids is on their hands too. The difference between them and us is that we know that and we reckon with it because we have a duty to them while they hide from the truth. And they won't even admit that a single university has been bombed.
Thank you so much.
That was probably one of the most based responses that I've seen on mainstream media. Because like I said, I was surprised they actually aired that, because local news stations, for those who don't know, they capture the footage and then they'll, usually they won't even include that much of what he said. Like typically it would just be a small sound bite. And that's what they would put into the news segment. So I was surprised that they aired that entire discussion of what he said. But yeah, I mean, it's very telling, JB. Notice she asked him, she said, well, do you care if you're disciplined? And he said, I don't care.
Yeah. One of my favorite things he said was, there are some things more important than my academic future. Yeah. One of the things I also want to direct attention to, and everybody knows, of course, RBN is a Black network. Here you have an example of somebody white using their privilege in order to protect the people who are the most disenfranchised.
Yeah.
These are the John Browns, right? By the way, it's John Brown's birthday. Happy birthday, John Brown. So the thing is, I think that people really need to get through their heads is that in order for us to truly move things, some of us have to recognize our own privilege and say, absolutely not, we will not stand for this. And then stand in front of whoever is a barrier to liberation. See, everybody's talking about, oh, we want peace. We want peace. We want peace. There's a great video of Kwame Ture, well, before he was renamed himself Kwame Ture, when he was still Stokely Carmichael, when he was talking about there's a difference between peace and liberation. Peace means everything's quiet, even though, I'm not doing anything. It's peaceful, even though I'm still in chains. But if I want to be liberated, liberation can lead to an even greater peace. So that's the thing. The goal isn't peace, the goal is liberation. And always keep that in mind, because the thing is that what they mean by peace is they want the Palestinians to stop resisting and be quiet and die silently. That's the peace that they want. What we want is liberation, so that the Palestinians, as well as the Congolese, the Haitians, the indigenous Americans here, those of us that are Black people in this nation, especially freedmen, all of us can actually have liberation. So then we can have peace.
Yeah. I mean, it's very true. One of the other things I'll say too, I thought was pretty interesting is that I don't think many people thought the protests were going to last as long as they have. Even the campus protests, I don't think people thought this was going to last as long as it has lasted. Like, people have been protesting since October 7th. And with the civil rights movement, if you look back at those protests, people protest for a long time. Everyone talks about the March on Washington, but how many protests happened before that and after that? How many sit-ins, how many boycotts, so that's the thing is long term. And this is where I feel like we could have had more with the George Floyd protests. But the moment that Donald Trump lost, a lot of those protesters went back home, particularly the ones in DC. DC had one of the largest protests, and that should have never happened. The protests should have continued. So I think that some people learned from that, and they look back on and they're like, okay, let's not make that same mistake again. So you notice how long these protests have been happening since October 7th. And here we are. So it's May now. And we're going into the summer. And I know some people have been wondering, well, what happens comes the summer and the students are not in school? Right. They won't be in school, but they'll have more free time to protest in the streets. Mm-hmm. So I still see this happening during the summer. I still see, in fact, the protests may even increase during the summer because they're not in school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they are trying to quell this as fast as they possibly can because they do not want students with more time on their hands. And right. If we remember the George Floyd protests, when George Floyd was killed, I think it was March or April of 2020. It was early in the pandemic. So then once those protests start, and then you had the summer where a lot of people had a lot of time off, oh baby, that's when they went to a groundswell because more people have more time on their hands. So I think that they're trying to quell this now because they do not want this to grow beyond their control. That's what it feels like to me.
Right. Yeah, because the George Floyd protests increased over the summer. And I think some people thought, well, because it's hot that, you know, they're not going to be as many people out there. But no, that was not the case at all. Like the numbers continue to increase. And they said, not just in the United States, but all over the world. There were people in South Korea protesting. There were people in New Zealand it was all over the world. And this is why, one of the reasons why I think they want to shut down TikTok. I think this is the reason why they want to control, by they, I mean the government wants to control social media, is because they don't want this to continue to spread. You know, and people can just easily reach out to each other on social media and say, hey, we're doing this action at such and such time, right? But that being said, the civil rights movement, there was no social media then. And they were able to get what, over 200,000 people at the March on Washington?
Yeah.
I think over 200,000 people. So the thing is, like, there are always ways to get your message across. And I can tell you, like, that group of people, the students, they are incredibly resourceful. They know how to get the word out. That is one thing I will say. But I want to show this from Tom Morello because I want to make a point for the people who are criticizing the student protesters, particularly the ones that said that they should not be allowed to occupy a hall. So I just want to remind everybody and shout out to Tom Morello because he posted this. So Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, by the way, just in case people were wondering who. So he posted this and he said, our 1986 encampment / shanty town in Harvard Yard protesting the university profiting from doing business with apartheid South Africa. So this is Tom Morello back in 1986. And you can see the picture here, Harvard out now. So Tom Morello's out there with this group. These were all the students or some of the students that were protesting against apartheid South Africa. And also that hall, which has been the kids have renamed it Hind's Hall. That hall was also occupied at Columbia University during the protest against apartheid South Africa. This is not the first time that has happened. But if you listen to mainstream media, they'll make it sound like this has never happened before. There's also the war in Vietnam. A lot of these protests started on college campuses, right? So this is the reason why they want to try to control what's happening in the classrooms on college campuses. They want to control like who the presidents of these universities are. This is why people like Bill Ackman and other billionaires like Elon Musk are trying to control things there because they know, they said the kids are getting together at the colleges and this is dangerous because this is how they're coming up with all these different ideas and protests and that kind of stuff. It's called organizing. That just is what it is. But they don't want that to continue. Yeah. That's why they're trying to control all this. They're trying to control the source of information. They're trying to control the social media platforms, and they're trying to control who is actually leading these institutions. That's why they're trying to get presidents of universities to resign so they can put in the person that they want. But that's not going to stop the students from protesting. And also, the students have also realized that they are the customer. Colleges are a business. We got to stop calling them schools because having worked there, I can tell you it's all about money. Without the students, they don't make money. If they don't make money, they cease to exist. Yeah. So this is why I say like they have realized just how much power they have.
Yeah. Remember that tweet I put out? That guy had said in a video, he said colleges are just banks that just so happen to teach classes.
Yep. That's what it's become. I kid you not. Like the moment they started letting, weapons contractors and billionaires, donate money to these schools, it was over.
Yeah. Definitely. What about the other? I think there was another video that you wanted to share as well, because I think that it's important that we see like what is going on, and it's not just something that's a one-off, like you were talking about earlier. Like for instance, I had on John Melrod, and he was talking about them protesting the Vietnam War, and about how they were being harassed by police just for protesting the Vietnam War. Now people would go, "Oh my God, I can't believe they actually, went after Vietnam protesters." And it's like, are you seeing what's going on today? Do you see the parallel?
Right. So I just want to share this video from Chuck Modi. So if you guys are in the DC area, just FYI, Chuck Modi has really been doing the damn thing. Like he has been on the ground covering a lot of the protests on the college campuses in DC. And I mean, he's been covering protests since George Floyd, as long as I can remember. But
before, I think,
but I think that he's been on the ground, it seems like almost every day, covering these protests. And I just want to show you guys what he had here. So I'm gonna put this over here. He said, this is a student speaking, so I'm going to show you the video of the student. "I watched my close friends be maced by police, had their hijabs ripped off." So the covering that Muslims wear, like the police were taking those off their head. So number one, so much for respecting someone's religion, and smashing against bags. So I want to play her video here. Let me just make sure I turn this up and let's make this larger. Oh, I don't know why this is so low. Hold on.
Miserable by Ellen Greenberg, and today it was manifested in the form of physical violence. If she had any shame, she would resign. Alongside Ellen Greenberg, I have watched House Republicans like Chairman Comer work alongside Democratic Manager Muriel Bowser to send MPD into our liberated zone in the middle of the night while we were sleeping, when they knew they wouldn't have cameras on us. In the last 24 hours, I've watched my fellow students, my close friends, be maced by police, had their hijabs ripped off, been thrown to the ground, had their hands zip-tied to their wheelchairs, their heads smashed against bike seats so hard that their glasses cracked. And instead of resting and recuperating with them as I like, I'm here because Rafah is still being invaded.
So I'm just going to pause it there for a second, but I wanted to get your take on that, JB, the way that they actually attack the student, like physically attack the students.
When you are a threat to the system will react violently to you. That's why, see, this is why it was a lot more lighter in how the J6 protesters were being treated, if you think about it. Because they really didn't threaten power. They were rowdy to the powers that be, but they didn't necessarily threaten power, right? It's the same thing with, I'll give you an example. I think it was the Philadelphia, it was either the Eagles or the 76ers won a game, and you had a whole bunch of people, particularly a lot of white people, that were running the streets, jumping on cars, setting things on fire, and then in the news it was, oh, they're just rowdy. They're just happy that their team won. But then when we came out into the streets to actually demand change, and because of something violently horrible happening to somebody in our community, that's when the cops come out and bash us in the head. It's the same thing. If the students were out there camping because of a basketball game, let's say it's March Madness and they wanted to camp out because of a basketball game, the police would be there in smaller numbers in just regular police uniform just making sure everything's cool and nobody's in danger. But because they're actually protesting against the system that necessitates the occupying and illegal apartheid that's going on in West Asia, then that's a threat to the system. And so they need to be put down. So this is why it's happening. And so when people go, well, the police are out there to protect us. No, they're not. They're not out there to protect you. They're out there to protect the interests of the billionaires, of the predator class. That's why they're bashing our kids' heads in. It's not just their kids. It's not just my kids. It's ours. Because this is literally our future. And they're literally getting their heads bashed in just because they do not agree with genocide.
Yep. I'll play the rest of what she said here.
I'm here because Gaza is still undergoing US-funded genocide, and none of us can rest while the shameful universities and governments continue to support this injustice. Our Congress, our university, our mayor, and our police have all worked together to violently suppress our student movement. And despite this fear of suppression, we remain steadfast in our demands for total divestment, for total financial transparency, for protection of anti-Zionist youth. Because no fear is greater than being underneath bombs and airstrikes. I stand here today to reiterate the student movement will not rest, no matter what we are faced with, until total divestment from the genocide and until the liberation of the Palestinian people. Shame on Muriel Bowser. Shame on Ellen Granberg. Shame on our federal government.
So Jaybe, notice how they're calling out Democrats. Notice how they're calling out. The other guy did too in the Chicago video. He said that Joe Biden was, the Biden administration, basically they're hypocrites. Notice how she's calling out Mayor Bowser, who is the mayor of DC. So you see, this is why, check this, man, peep this, fam. Joe Biden basically managed to somehow piss off both sides. Let me tell you how he did this. He has pissed off the pro-Palestinian protesters by continuing to arm Israel. He has pissed off, Republicans were already pissed off, but he's also pissed off just recently. Now, some of the people who are pro-Israel, he has pissed them off by making the statement that he is not going to give Israel weapons if they continue in Rafah. So now he has managed to piss off both sides. How do you do that? How do you do that? So I'm just telling you guys, like, November is not far away. People keep saying it's far. It's not that far. Before you know it, it's going to be June. So how do you manage to piss off both sides? So the Republicans obviously weren't going to vote for you, weren't going to vote for him anyway. The younger people, particularly the ones that support Palestine, weren't going to vote for you. And now it could be that those who are pro-Israel are also not going to vote for you because of the statement that he made recently about not giving Israel weapons. Now, I would argue, I'll talk about this tomorrow night. I would argue he already gave them weapons, so he's full of shit. But that's a whole other thing. But do you see the problem, Jaybe? Do you see the problem how this administration has managed to become so messy and reckless that they have managed to lose people from different groups, young voters, Black voters, it just Hispanic voters.
Yeah.
So I'll finish this here.
And shame on this Congress for fascist crackdowns on free speech of students, as well as the blatant support for genocide in Gaza. We owe it to over 40,000 martyrs in Palestine, including 17,000 children, to keep all eyes on Gaza. As Israel conducts their horrific invasion of Rafah, where over 1.6 million are trapped, we are more obliged than ever to fight for the liberation of Palestine. Because what I experienced 12 hours ago is nothing compared to the experience of living in Gaza. It's nothing compared to the fact that I've woken up every morning in the last 8 months, and the first thing I do is ask if my people in Palestine are alive. And the last thing I do before every night is know that when I wake up, 40 more people will have been murdered by Israel with our tax dollars. I send all of my love to the student movement and all of my solidarity to Palestine.
And you guys can't see it in this video, but I think over to the right, I think that was Rashida Tlaib that was standing next to her to the right, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I mean, the Biden administration really messed up.
Royally messed up. Because, I mean, honestly, you know, even though we're 7 months away from the election, I feel like Biden has messed up so much that people are just going to, if anybody's, you know, the people who are going to vote, they're going to vote third party, right? Or they're going to stay home. And it's going to leave Biden with so little votes that Donald Trump will just walk right on in. And my thing is Joe Biden does not deserve, nor has any, he does not deserve anybody's vote whatsoever, because number one, the economy is trash. Okay. I don't care what David Pakman says. The economy is trash. Okay. Homelessness went up over 12% by the beginning of 2023 last year. The economy is trash, David. And then on top of it, you have this genocide that he is funding. And I don't care what people say. Oh, well, Donald Trump would actually make it worse. You cannot, I'm trying to choose my words carefully because we're on YouTube. You cannot eliminate somebody more than what they're already eliminated. It's beating a dead horse. They're already gone. There's no life there. So it's like one fash, two fash, red fash, blue fash. What are we getting? And so this really actually will this is really exposing both parties that are complicit in the degradation of humanity via corporate power. That's what it's really about. And so many young people are waking up, and this is why they want to ban TikTok, because they do not want a medium like TikTok to spread among the people, and then they wake up and then they actually walk away. And the problem is, it's not just that. They don't want them to mobilize and organize in order to change the system. That's what it's ultimately about.
Yeah, and in reference to whether it's Trump or Biden with this particular situation, I think the focus should be on Benjamin Netanyahu, because he's made statements that regardless, he's going to do whatever he wants to anyway. That's what the focus should be on if you're concerned about this particular issue. So the thing is that this is what happens when you allow a government to not be held accountable for so long, and you give them a pass for so long, and you're funding them for so long. This is what happens when you say that this government can do no wrong. And I mean, like, anytime you stand up there and you have senators that are threatening, you know, the prosecutor that's a part of the ICC threatening this person, it's a mafia. Our government is a mafia.
Yes. Imagine a mafia having the power of the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, right, and our armed forces. Imagine a mafia leader having the power over that and having the power over our legislative, judicial, and executive branch. Because as you stated before, and I got to thank you for this, you showed that hierarchy of who actually owns and runs the world. People who are the billionaires at the top, the people who own the central banks. These are the people at the top. Presidents, prime ministers are only the middlemen.
Yep.
That's who are just managing things, right? They're middle managers. So therefore, the kingpins, we don't see them, and they don't want to be seen.
And we probably never will see them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's It's kind of like if we think about sports, like particularly like football, right? Like everybody sees the football players, everybody sees the coach, right? How many of us see the owner?
I'm so proud of you. That's such a great analogy.
How many of serious? How many of us see the owner? How many people know? And this is a good question, but how many people know that the owner of the Detroit Lions is a woman? And if you do you know her name?
I had no idea.
Yeah, these are the people for the most part that are not seen. And that's the way they want it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to pay attention to that. Not every billionaire is out in the open like Elon Musk or Bill Ackman, and there's people that make more than billions. And you will never see or hear about these people. This is the way that they want it. And that's on purpose. And the president, Biden and Blinken, John Kirby, these are the middlemen. As Jaybe was saying, these are the people that they put out in the front. So we're all pointing the fingers at them when things go wrong, instead of pointing the fingers at the people that are behind them, because we can't see those people. Everyone mentions AIPAC, right? But do we know who owns AIPAC? Who sits at the head?
Good question.
These are things to think about. We know the spokesperson for the ADL, Jonathan Greenblatt, because he does a lot of interviews and stuff like that. But I would argue there's probably someone over him that you'll never see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like the Avengers movie where, Nick Fury goes in front of a panel of all these people that are in shadows and talking to him. And it's like, you don't know who those people are.
Nope. And the people that you see out there, they're just puppets. They're middlemen that are puppets. That's Kamala, that's Biden, that's all these people. Even when you look at other countries, even if you look at prime ministers of other countries, they're puppets too. The UK has its own version of AIPAC.
Mm-hmm.
So, you don't even have to see the faces behind the scenes. But I think what will eventually happen is if you make enough noise and we have more of a even bigger mass movement, or the movement continues for as long as it has, it's only a certain amount of time before things are going to start to crumble. And this is why I said we need a general strike. Because once those institutions no longer have a customer base, they will fall. This is where it all goes back to. If the universities don't have customers, they will fall. You'll probably get to see some of those faces then, because they'll want to know what's happening to their money, their investments.
Where my money at? Now I do have something I wanted to show you. Do you have a hard stop at 7?
I could do like 5 more minutes.
Okay. I want to share this with you. I want you to see this because it's wholesome. It's going to warm your heart. Okay. Now, this is a really good indicator of if you're on the right or wrong side of history. I just want to share this, and then you can take your exit, and then I'll do some of the house cleaning stuff. But I want you to see this, especially Sabs, because I love this. Abby, for the people, says literally crying in the club, my office. So let's take a look.
احنا اهل غزه بننبسط كثير لما نشوف طلاب امريكا واقفين معانا وحاسين فينا وجينا نشكركم بطريقتنا البسيطه. بتمنى.
Wait, I hope this music doesn't get us copyright claimed.
I think you should be. This is on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think you should be fine.
Just want to check.
استقبلها بحب. شكرا كولومبيا. شكرا سينسكو. شكرا بلاشن. شكرا ين. شكرا يوسي هلا. شكرا students for justice in Palestine.
Now, if there's any question if these students are on the right side of history or not, I think you have your answer. What you got going on tonight, Sabs?
That's awesome, JB. That really did warm my heart. So yeah, Dr. Jill Stein and her campaign manager, Jason Call, are coming on tonight. And then I have 3 news stories. So.
All right, great. So be sure to be there or be square at Sabby's channel in 59 minutes from now. And thank you so much for Sab. It's like, thank you so much for that, Sab. I'll catch you in the next one. All right.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. So we're going to go over the super chats and everything else. But first, before I do that, I want to give a shout out to the patrons on Patreon. For without you guys, we would not be able to do this type of work. See, here's the thing. When you guys contribute to us, this allows us to be able to continue to do this work, to inform, to encourage people to do more work on the ground, to do more mutual aid, as we like to push. Whether you are inclined towards electoral politics or not, either way, that is the bare minimum. That is a minuscule piece of what you can do. The biggest thing is to organize and mobilize. And so we encourage people to do what they can for their communities, to get out there on the ground. So that's what we do. And so you're helping us to be able to do that. So I just want to say a big shout out and thank you to all the patrons on Patreon, because y'all make this possible. So thank you very much for that. Also, if you guys have not, go ahead and give a like to the stream. That pushes us out into the algorithm. Thank you so very much. And if you guys have not already, you guys can go to our website at revolutionaryblackoutnetwork.com for that. And just in case, if you guys have not seen already, we're also fundraising for our graphic designer. So if you guys like to, you guys can go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $Mutual Aid Forever. We will be going to the chat first. I'm going to go to Rockfin, and we're going to have a chat on Rockfin first, because I want to make sure I don't miss out on the Rockfin. All right. Solid like a Rockfin. Sorry. I know, that was weird. Anyway, Hempcar says, work's not important, school's not important. Nothing's more important than stopping fascism, because if we don't stop fascism, fascism will stop us all. Fred Hampton. Thank you so very much. He says, so we're going to have to fight with them, struggle with them relentlessly, because these megalomaniacs don't know what peace is. Chairman Hampton. Owning nothing and be happy. Kids getting prepared to not have ish. Thank you so very much for that, Hempcar. Appreciate it. All right, so we're going to go to the super chats really quick first, and then we'll get to the rest of the chat. Just want to say hello to everybody. Says Marvin Vargas says, have someone from Nation of Islam talk about protests. That would be interesting to have somebody have them on to talk about protest. A lot of people especially from back then, were involved in the Nation of Islam. You know, they had protests, so that will be interesting to have. So thank you very much for that, Marvin. Andrew says, come out for Frank Tyson, Canton, Ohio, March 10th at 6 p.m. Okay, thank you so very much for that. Roger Meadows says, she met Desmond Tutu Tom Morello. Oh, okay. Thank you so very much. Also, Roger says, Steelers and Packers cooperatively own. Beat that. Nice. I appreciate that. Roger also continues, says, every protest starts a year or less before presidential election. Occupy was 2011. George Floyd was 2020. October 7th. Sab, my customer, says she wants to sit in your class. Nice. All right. And then this one, P-Stuff says, Sabby, Biden wants to lose to Trump so the Democrats can impeach Trump, then install Gavin Newsom. What an idea. All right. So Lou says, I live in the DC, Baltimore area. Of course, I don't know who the owner of Detroit Lions is. Ghislaine Conspiracy Theory says that's correct. The trillionaires tend to stay behind the curtain. They hire more visible managers. Kill Your Grigors says two-party system, the owners and the own. George Carlin. Yep. Question Everything says politics is a dog and pony show. Money makes the world go round. I would say money and resources. The money, being monetary, the resources being things like platinum, gold, oil, lithium, cobalt, timber, coal, liquefied natural gas. These things make the world go round. And then also, people are considered a resource too. So yeah, any one reason why they also are trying to heavily go after China, because they see I think it's 1.4 billion people now they have, as also a valuable resource to exploit. So yes, I agree with you. Question Everything. And yes, good name. Question Everything. Absolutely. Conspiriality says, yes, there are laws in place that forbid sales to foreign nations without governmental clearance. I think we call those sanctions if they're prevented. See, Walt Rose says, private companies do as they wish on capitalist economy for the most part. Yeah, at the expense of the people. Absolutely. Let me see here. Tyler Russ says, I read both of Whitney Webb's books, and it is what it is like the mafia and mob that controls us, like the control for the 1%. Yes, it is very mafia. It is a mafia. I mean, ultimately, it's like they'll say, oh, it's a shame, that if you continue this action, then you will no longer have an education to survive, or it's a shame that you do this action and you will no longer have health care. It's how they operate. Jacqueline says they don't want to tax the billionaires, but if people form a worker co-op, what's the betting the government would tax them to the max? I see that happening too, but I honestly do think that we should still do it anyway, because it's better to have it than if they try to tax the crap out of us. And they lose more power in that way. Black Spot says, I'm sure the Detroit Lion fans know who the owner of the team is. Yeah, but I'm not in Detroit. I'm not from Detroit. Well, Rome is from Detroit. He probably knows. He might know. But anyway. Lewis says, I say joining a union is much better than voting here. It depends on if the union bosses are in cahoots with the owners. But at the same time, I say some unions better than no union, but some of these union bosses are in cahoots. So you got to keep them on a tight leash. That's what I say. And then push for worker co-ops and push for organizing on the ground outside of the workspace. Let me see. Yes, Retro Gamer says UK and Britain have corruption. They absolutely do. Oh, interesting. Bud Osmoka says Seahawks owner is Paul Allen's sister. Interesting. Casey says Mark Hamill is a moron news. Oh gosh. And then let me go to this too. And yes, Joe Stein's going to be on Sabby Sabs. Joe Stein and Jason Call is going to be on here. Thank you so much for the reminder. I'm sorry, Eric. And then Amanda says, love you too. Love you back, Amanda. Joseph Beth says, JB is a cool dude for showing that video. Thank you. Thank you. I tried to be chill, cool. Oh, thanks. I got 4,000 subs now. So thank you so much, Roger Meadows. Appreciate it. Let me see. Anna says, our masters are the global power elite. I don't even like calling them elite no more. This isn't, you know, a slight at you at all. It's really a semantics. It's, you know, kind of throwaway. But I don't like calling them elite because there's nothing really elite about them. That's why I call them the predator class, right? Because they prey on all of us and our planet. And they, or you can call them the parasite class, right? Because that's what I think of them as. But yes, you're correct still. So the lobbying groups, transnational corporations, monopolies, business associations, financial billionaires, etc. Yes. Lawrence Johnson said, been a long and difficult. I'm sorry, Lawrence. Everybody in the chat, give Lawrence some love. All right? That's what we're here for. We're here to show love and be kind to our fellow human beings on this planet. Yeah. And then Tyler says, Sabrina and James, I love you both. Oh, we love you too. All right. Let me make sure I get this as well because I don't want to miss this. Oh, all right. And Tyler Russ, thank you for becoming a new member. Clap it up for Tyler Russ becoming a member. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Helping us keep the lights on. Making my way downtown, walking fast, faces pass when I'm homebound. No. All right. So I'm going to head on out because I went a little over, but I just want to make sure I got plenty of people in the chat as well, because you guys are a talkative, lively bunch, which I absolutely appreciate. And so thank you so very much. And I love seeing that you guys are giving love to Lawrence. Lawrence needs it. We want to show our love. Look, the world is unkind. Let's be kind to each other. Kindness to other people is a rebellious act against the system because the world doesn't want you to be kind. So do the opposite of what this system wants you to do. Be kind, be compassionate, right? Use and be kind and be compassionate to yourselves too. Because this system wants you to be unkind. They want you to beat yourselves up. All right? So be loving to yourselves and each other. So, all right. And I'll show this because MB, thank you so much. Says, keep your head up, Lawrence. Sending some vibes all the way, all the love to all going through some things. Thank you so much, MB. That was very sweet of you. Appreciate it. Oh, I think I missed a super chat. Hang on. Oh, thank you, Tyler Russ. Appreciate the super sticker too. All right. So, gotta go. Woo-hoo. Let's get on. Okay. Did I have something I want to share? Did I have a closing video I want to share? I don't think so. But I wanted to see if I had something. So yes, keep your heads up, people. And always remember to never stop trying to take care of each other, even if it means you're doing organizing work on the ground. All right, so let's get going. Thank you so much. Water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it. If you got them. And I will see you guys in the next one. Oh, this Saturday, I will be at a pro-Palestine rally. So if you guys are looking for any content from me on Saturday, I won't be able to do it. I'm thinking about either live stream. See, if I live stream, I don't know, the quality of the stream may not come out too well. I'm thinking I might just like pre-record it and then just share it. I don't know, but I will be out there on Saturday. So, and then there won't be a Jaybe show this Sunday because I'll have spent my time outside and it's hot down here. So, be sure to, keep an eye for any streams, as well. And you guys can go to our Substack if you guys like to get the email notifications for those streams too. So, all right. So, leave the world bending you found it. Mwah. Forehead kisses to every single one of you. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.